Peace and respect to you all. Welcome to Demolished Doctrine, the beginning of the end of religions. And today we are blessed to have both of our friends on with us for our Wednesday regular show. Or maybe we're going to start doing it Sunday and Wednesday. I can't tell. We'll have to see what happens. We'll just see how it plays out. Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning.
Does seem to be a Wednesday.
Yes.
Happy Wednesday, gentlemen.
Happy Wednesday.
I'm lucky I remembered to check and find out that today is Wednesday. I have trouble keeping track of the passage of time. And,
I have trouble caring what day of the
Yeah.
week it is, being semi-retired and writing my own schedule. I just kind of don't care. you know?
Yeah.
And
Very
I think
good.
that it's all pretty darn subjective what day of the week it is anyway. They tell me, not that I've done a lot of research because it's not that important, but they tell me that when they switched to different calendars and different calendars throughout history, because the Earth year is 365.250138888 days long, that's a year.
Okay.
That's
Spot.
exactly a year. There's nothing after that. That's the end of the number. Because of that, the Aztec would skip forward, I think it was 3 days every 29 years to make up
Okay.
for that
Sure.
very small fraction of a day. We have leap year that takes care of the 0.25, peace and respect Moon Medi, but it doesn't take care of what's after the 0.25, the 013888. It doesn't take
Okay.
care of that. So that's why there's progression in or what's called reverse progression through the zodiac, or an eon of time, where every 30 degrees is precisely 1,260 years, which is why that number keeps popping up in the Bible. That's why. That's why
It does?
you keep
That
seeing
number's
that
in the Bible?
1,260. Yeah, that number pops up all over the place. Like
I know that.
that's- go ahead.
Sorry, keep going. I was going to
So
give you
that's
a trivia.
that's 42 months, 3.5 years. That's 1,260. That's what that number means. When the text says an eon, that's 1,260 years. That's what that means. Okay, so what the hell were we talking about? Bring me back. I totally got off way out.
Yes,
We were
I-
talking about how the construct of time sort of loses its luster when you're not bound by it.
Sure. Okay, so all the calendars have had to make adjustments. We even played around with the idea of having a 13th month several times.
Right.
We even played around with that sometimes,
Yeah.
trying to make this thing work.
28-day
and it
months
doesn't.
or something.
Yeah, we've tried all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff. Nothing works.
Yeah.
Nothing works. And so, is today Wednesday? Well, actually, not necessarily. It's not, because
That's true.
when we switched calendars from the Jovian to the Gregorian, they had to leap forward like something like 10 days when they made that switch.
That's
so
right.
this is not Wednesday.
Right.
We don't know when Wednesday is. And that raises the question: when is the Sabbath?
Oh, sure.
See, you're totally messing up. If today is Wednesday, but actually it's a 10-day forward leap, then that's 7 plus 3 days. So you need to subtract 3 days. So today is Sunday, which means that if you celebrated Sabbath on Sunday, then you should have been celebrating it on Thursday.
Great.
It's a mess, man. It's just a mess. I'm telling you.
I don't know how
I
I'm going
like
to
it.
unwind all those unnecessary Sabbath celebrations.
Well, I think people should celebrate the Sabbath by not going to any religious services.
Oh, yeah.
And then...
Just chilling out.
Yes, and make sure you never go to church, because it's bad news.
I think Richard would assert, if I'm not incorrect, that that's exactly what will happen on the Sabbath. Part of it, anyway. Everyone will stop
the-
going to church.
The
Do
reason
Jews
you never
go
go ahead.
to temple on the Sabbath? I'm not sure.
Okay. All right. So
Let's
the
do it.
Abrahamic religions hold the Sabbath in high regard and
Yes.
celebrate it in different ways. Okay. But what the text says is to keep holy the Sabbath. Like, keep in mind that it is set apart. It's a set apart thing. Okay. So they're doing their best to have it set apart in whatever way they do that. Okay. But the reason you never see a Thor's Day or a Woden's Day on in the Bible is because every day is the Sabbath in the Bible.
Really?
Yes, it's only talking about the Sabbath, nothing else. It's the only. Look it up. There is only Sabbath in the Bible. There is no other day. That's because Sabbath is a long period of time, namely 7 years. That's the beginning of the Sabbath, and that's the beginning of the Sabbath is 7 years. Because the Sabbath is the seventh day, the day of God's rest from all of his creation, us, namely the point of this creation. It's our completion, which is our ascension into heaven and perfection. So heaven plus 7 years, apparently. And then we're perfected, and then we are complete, and God's creation complete, and rests from that creation. Because you can't rest while something's in process, because that didn't even make sense. So that's what Sabbath means, and why the Bible is always only talking about the Sabbath and never mentions what are some of the other ones. I wanted to Thor's Day, Woden's Day,
Moon's Day.
Moon Day. Right?
Yeah.
Yes, Moon Day. Hi, Moon Mitty.
Right. Hi. Yeah. So that's why. So they're setting aside and keeping holy by celebrating once a week a singular event that hasn't happened. Which is why I say my because I'm presenting it. The Sabbath syllogism works so well. God rests from all his creation on the Sabbath. Man is part of God's creation. Man is not complete. He's in process. God has not taken breaks from man. God has not had his Sabbath of this creation. God did have a rest from creation. Must not be this one. And that just all...
I find that very compelling. I
mean, I think it's
you hit me with that
unavoidable.
early on in our talks, and that's definitely a big one. I think God not being finished yet, but I don't think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you are also absolutely correct that that's not just a novel thought from you. Like other people have thought about, have proposed that exact thing.
Oh, really?
Especially, yeah. I think who came to mind right now is this. I'll probably murder his name, but this French Catholic Teilhard Chardin, I think it's pronounced.
Sounds like a wine.
He
If
he
it's
wrote
French,
about
that would be Teilhard Chardin.
that sounds better. Yeah. Anyway, he's a really exciting writer. He writes about God, but he talks about God as sort of a verb, as something that's happening to humanity. And of course, in the Catholic context, he puts a lot of emphasis on the ritual of the Eucharist and how that represents God entering man, like man slowly becoming God and reaching this one point where, where we're all like kind of there with God, on the same level. And that's the work, that's the work of God is kind of completing us in that way. That's sort of an ecstatic thought when you consider yourself part of an operation like that. It's thrilling, so but I know you're contextualizing it more as also at least as kind of a mechanical process, or I mean mechanical in the same way that a garden is mechanical, deliberately planted and tended and challenged and harvested, I guess.
I want to show you guys this. I recently am presenting an argument, and Zebra, I think I didn't send it to you because I didn't think you were interested. But Mac, did I send that to you?
You did.
Okay.
I think you did too, but I haven't read it yet.
And I've
I don't
responded.
know.
I responded to Mac just this morning, and I took some time to read this. I'm sorry, to write this. I mean, I'm relatively serious about this stuff. Can you even see? You probably can't even see that, can you? No, you can't.
I can read
on
it.
YouTube. You can? Well, your eyes are a lot better than mine. Let me see if I can.
I have to get
Fix
kind of
something
close to the
about this.
screen.
I have new
Yes.
glasses, so I'm hooked
This
up now.
this is the response that you sent me today, right?
Yeah. Right.
I
Okay.
actually
I'm
have.
gonna read that to everybody. What's that?
Okay, cool. Um,
Oh,
I'm glad you're bringing it up because I have a question.
good.
That's
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And speech is so much easier than writing. Okay.
Yeah.
So the original proposition is that what we are experiencing here being temporary, and what is the relationship between Yod He Vav He or Jehovah and mankind? That's the context, right? So here's what I'd written, and I've been able to use this exact response for two responses because the original idea I sent out to several people to get their critiques of the argument, and everyone said the same thing. What about morality, and what does that mean? So this is my response. So this is from my worldview and from my reading frame. The morality of Yod He Vav He is based in the biology and necessity of human beings specifically, and not something else. That heaven is older than the whatever age of the earth. It's been being changed since there was first atmosphere. Why is this thing not working? I thought you could do that. Okay, I guess you can't. Hold on a second, I have to find my place again. 1.5 billion year old terraforming of this earth, and heaven is available at all times, but at that society's discretion, i.e., the Father. We only thus far have experienced this earth and have no social memory of the fleet of heaven, which our first generation knew of and came from. The claim is that we have a birthright and belong to our larger society, heaven, but are temporarily stuck here, and that here was an act of angels which act upon commands. I just got I just got another response from someone for having written this. The acts of angels which act upon the commands of Yahweh, or what's defined that they must do by Yahweh, their prime directive concerning earths. This makes Yahweh a temporarily necessary set of constructs informing angels as to how to interact with any given earth, though there is always an earth in progress. So yes, though individuals act in what they feel is justifiable morality, such morality is always basically subjective, and we do not have an objective morality. The biology of human beings in a heavenly society requires an objective social contract referred to as the Ten Commandments. So the Ten Commandments rule heaven and angels, whereas Yod He Vav He does not, except in their interactions in earths and interactions amongst themselves, but it's not really in charge as much as it is, what is it they said in Pirates of the Caribbean? It's more of a guideline. Those upon the earth have a myriad of social constructs. Angels have contracts. Angels have social contracts with humans on this earth, even where humans do not recognize any such contract. Sorry for the bad news, Myth Vision and Skylar Fiction. They still have a commitment to you, even if you don't have a commitment to them. And that contract, called in the Bible Yod He Vav He. And here's why it is exactly that. The character Yod is literally the open hand, the hand of power, the ability to do things. And also the number 10, and the idea of having loyalty towards some idea or some persons or person. He is number 5 in the idea of grace, and that it is representative of the four corners or cardinal directions, east, north, south, and west. Vav is the number 6, and also the idea of being not yet perfected, a tent peg, or that which anchors one thing to another. That idea. And of course, again, He, four corners of cardinal directions, east, north, south, west. Writing that as a complete idea. The hand of power, loyalty toward four corners, grace, anchors together, not perfected, four corners, grace. So if I interject some English, what are those called, conjunctions in here, you end up with the hand of power commands loyalty between the four corners of the heaven in grace, and anchors together the not yet perfected four corners of the earth in grace. And we only experience on this global basis, and individual experiences may vary based on their own ability to logically come to such truths. Let me know if that does not answer your question. What do you think?
Whose question was it? I've lost track. Mac, did you
Peace
ask?
and respect, Marty Camejo and Sammy. Whose question was it? I asserted something in the first place, and this people responded, and that's my response to their response.
Okay. How does this fit in with your idea of God? Because not that I claim to understand it, but it does put Yahweh at the head of all these angels as a real living thing, creature thingamabob jig.
No, it doesn't make. It's a set of. It's a contract. It's a social contract. It's a set of immaterial constructs, i.e., ideas. And that is strictly what the text does describe. Peace and respect, Kev, Trusty Ape podcast. That just like any kind of social contract, there are things that are prohibited and things that are commanded. And the commandments of the Yod He Vav He in the acts of angels concerning earths is that they do certain things, like create one, and then stock it with everything necessary for it to be a self-sustaining biodome, even though some parts of it are pretty darn rough, like tornadoes, and put us here so that we can have a limited experience of suffering to be elevated into heaven later, so that the small percentage of heaven that did suffer as we propagate and fill the land, will understand what suffering is and how to keep it out of our utopian society that we will call heaven. Or we right now call heaven. They might not call it heaven. So it works quite well for me with my definition of God. And by the way, I'm not inclined to worship a living being in the first place. That seems funky to me.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You are muted somewhere, Mac. But not on StreamYard. Thank you.
Thank you. I heard you discussing that with, I think, Kevin yesterday, about the difference between worship and prayer. I thought that was really engaging. I think
you could call it boring. You could call it boring, or you could call it consistent. Either one. Peace and respect, Commander.
So, Steve, the original response that I had for Richard was, I basically just I said that I believe that morals in general, even definitionally, are contextual and not objective. And this sounds like it's not in conflict with that. Like this would be the objective morals for that situation and for that population, which is, I think, what your whole original thing was about. Is God the God of everyone in a moral sense, or is God the God of a specific population that is, kind of in sync with the biological necessities, in the same way that the morals work for all of them.
Well, interesting you should say that, because although I'm the worst person ever to talk about philosophy, there is a notion called moral particularism, and that you can't remove morality from the context of the situation, that you really have to analyze it. So a list of rules will not, in general, might help you a little. But the obvious example being someone who steals a loaf of bread to feed a starving family. That's not the same as someone stealing every loaf of bread in the city and then letting people starve unless they've got big bucks.
Yeah, moral ambiguity exists, and you can come up with really challenging examples of that. But you know, the reason they're challenging is because we exist in a moral dimension. You know, we struggle with those things and try to do what's right. Most of us, I think.
Mm.
Yeah, I was reviewing the YouTube series called Crash Course Philosophy,
Yes.
and as I was letting that play, which I just went to the playlist and hit continuous, and just let it play, and went through my day. It dawned on me that what the Bible is apparently showing is that although let me see how to say that. Although the Yod He Vav He applies to us here, it would not necessarily. In fact, I think it cannot apply in perfect morality to anything else anywhere. And that's evident in the text where it says things like God hardened Pharaoh's heart. That is to say, the entire idea of God doesn't make sense to Pharaoh. And since Pharaoh is the thing that named us, turns red in the face like the red clay of the earth, that is his earth, and maybe all of that has red clay, who knows, unlike this planet, but like the red clay of the earth seems like a very universal statement. That's a name, and that names are designed to differentiate one thing from another. Like I say, pen, coffee cup. When I say pen, and you know what pen is, there's a great variety of things that are pen, but penness itself is an overall immaterial construct that all of the things which are pen carry.
Okay.
That's what penness means. Okay? And coffee cupness is very much the same thing. There's a lot attached to that, and it can come in all kinds of different forms, but it's their commonality that makes you think that something qualifies or does not qualify as a coffee cup. So the names differentiate that you don't pour coffee into a pen, nor can you sip coffee from a pen, and you can't write with a coffee cup. It doesn't work. So the name necessarily has to identify what the thing is and encapsulate all of what it is, and it has to eliminate simultaneously everything that it is not and differentiates it from everything else. And that's what makes a good definition of a thing, is it encapsulates all of that, eliminates everything else. That's what a definition should be. So when we are named Adam, and as a group Adamah, it's saying that we are different from everything else that the naming situation requires. And what's different about us is we have emotions. Well, then the namer has to, by definition, not have emotions, or he just named us himself. And there's no differentiation there. So we see like aspects of simple emotions in like animals, and that's fine, but our face turns red, and that's weird. Okay, so bearing that in mind, it must be true that the namer of mankind was emotionless. Well, it's no wonder that Pharaoh's heart was hardened against God. Try to imagine what it would mean to not have emotions. Like, personally, I can kind of conceptualize that and see some of the repercussions, but I can't empathize with a lack of emotions.
Right.
Like, I don't really get it, you know. So it would be something like, and we've tried to experiment with this in the idea of an evolved but emotionless animal in sci-fi. And you know,
Right.
fictional story. We've experimented with that and say, well, what would that be like? So we've made like artificial intelligence robots that didn't experience emotion. They were extremely logical, and they didn't act the same as us because they wouldn't. and we have the Vulcans, and we've experimented some. Okay, so what would
They
it
always-
mean? Go ahead.
Those characters always are trying to develop something like emotions, though. Like they're looking at the emotional people in the in the characters set and saying, "Boy, I wish I had that. I wish I could be like you." That's
I don't
always
think
the
that's
story.
necessarily true.
No.
I think a perfectly logical
Pinocchio?
animal, like you run into all these conundrums in humanity. Okay, so I can say something like, people suffer. Some people could be relieved of their suffering through the destruction of another human.
True.
So let's say that I had genetic match between 6 people, and they could accept each other's organs.
Okay.
I got this one really healthy guy, and say he even lives a premium life. He's
Sure.
got a career, he's got an education, he's productive in society. He's a benefit to his general surroundings and his family, and people depend on him, and he's a boss over something, and people are employed through this guy, right? But he
Okay.
genetically matches these other 5 people. Now, these other 5 people collectively are more productive than he is,
Okay.
because there's a bunch of them, and it's easy to be more productive than one person. Okay, so they also sustain themselves. They have educations. They have careers. Other people depend on them too. Peace and respect, Brother Kirk. But each of them are suffering physically and are going to die because of birth defects. And if I just harvest that one guy's organs and put them in the other 5 people, I have literally improved society.
This is
Should
a
I?
variation of the trolley problem.
It is.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Should I kill the perfectly healthy? Should I wire him up, drug him up, start removing it, put machines on, keep him alive as long as possible, and then when I've harvested all the organs out of him to benefit the other 5 people, whoosh, and to you, buddy.
I think you should. I think we should get going on that.
That's what I'm saying. Now
Solves-
that would be emotionless and perfectly practical.
It's very convincing.
Yeah.
That's the right thing to do.
But should we do that? Well, we say no. All of them have intrinsic value as a human being, despite
Of course.
how productive they are or what the eventual outcome is.
Right. Of course. We don't measure the value of a human that way.
Okay, so isn't that stupid?
It depends on what the goal is. I mean,
Yeah,
Well, it
go
would
ahead,
make
man.
people terrified of hospitals because you would go in hoping for treatment, and you might find yourself being harvested for organs instead.
wow.
No, and for that matter, that brings me to something else. If we were perfectly practical, and say I was the me I am now, okay, I've got a slightly higher than average IQ. I'm semi-retired. I don't do much I don't want to do. And I could take a wife and have kids and like support them and stuff, but they're going to have a pretty minimalistic life because I don't value material goods.
Right.
Okay?
Sure.
On the other hand, there could be someone who is very much like me, but perhaps they are a little bit taller than me, a little bit stronger than me, a little bit smarter than me, and I can recognize the difference. The guy's a little bit better looking than me, he's a better athlete than me, and it doesn't have to be much difference, but there's a difference that is evident to us both.
It's hard to imagine
While I am
something
still
like that.
dating this woman and not yet having children, and he approaches and he says to me something like, "What's your IQ?" And I say 120. He says, "Well, mine's 122." He says, "How tall are you?" I say I'm 5'8 3/4. He goes, "I'm 5'10." I say, well, he says, "Well, how much can you deadlift?" 325, 426. and this just keeps going, and he's just better than me in every way, right? I should give him my woman
Mm.
and
Or
not
have
be
sex.
upset about that.
You should have sex with them right away.
Him? I'm not
Yeah.
going to reproduce with him. That's
he's
not going to
been
make me
wonderful.
better. He's an amazing guy, but I'm not drawn that way. Okay, so if we were perfectly practical, that's how we should look at things. And so, since survivability is perfectly practical, although this is a tangent, I don't see why a naturalistic process that's practical in the actual physical world would result in us having things like possession and jealousy. I think we shouldn't have that.
I agree with that. Those aren't helpful feelings at all.
It's defeating. It's really defeating of a survivability of a species. It's super defeating.
Right.
No, what we should have evolved to do is, wow, dude, you're sexier than me. Have my wife.
Whoa.
But do we feel that way? Oh, hell
That's
no.
evolved for me.
I mean, I've never run into a guy sexier than me, so.
Yeah.
Lucky you. But I should be compelled to give you my wife.
It's interesting.
You're
To
taller,
take
you're
my
better
wife
looking, you're
means-
smarter, you're stronger, all the things that matter. You've got that over me. I should give you my wife. I should see you and say, wow, dude, here. Look,
I mean,
look
the
at
obvious
those hips,
answer
dude.
is-
She's ready to reap. She's 23. Here.
The obvious answer is those aren't the things that matter. You know, that
Right.
Yeah. What matters is the connection between the individuals that has already been established, and you know, their commitments to each other, spoken and otherwise. Those things matter more than upgrading and you know, succeeding in society and materially, or even just like whatever we call success, long life.
Right.
You know. Not, you know, avoiding bad breath, you know, whatever, winning the lottery. I mean, people win the lottery and say, I'm very successful. Well, I mean, then what did you do? What? I guess you're wealthy, but are you successful? I don't know.
Well, you could be, and this probably in the front of my mind because of reviewing Crash Course Philosophy, which I recommend to every human.
Yeah, it
by the
sounds
way.
cool.
And they're like 10-minute segments, and they're really just hitting the highlights of all the ideas and moving on.
Nice.
But it like thoroughly hits all. Although it does, the writer of the script for the person who is on camera speaking it has evidently to me assumed an evolutionary process, which we could debate. And the evolutionary process that we presently accept as fact, which that's not science-y. That's anti-science to assume something like that. Peace and respect, Athena, goddess of wisdom and warfare.
Yes.
The premise of the island was that clones were created for harvesting. I don't know why you wrote that, and I would request of you to use more words in another entry. I need context, in other words.
The
All right. So what do you guys think about all that? That the Satan, or in that story Pharaoh, must be emotionless, and is thereby not able to fully understand us because we do have emotions, which is why we are named Emotion Face.
why did we where in the Bible does it signal that the Pharaoh didn't have emotions?
It says that God hardened Pharaoh's heart,
Yeah,
and the fact that we're called Adam.
right. So comparing, so his heart was hardened, so that he didn't feel emotions about.
No, that's a Christian assumption, and it's
Oh.
defeating within the text.
Okay.
In the very naming of us, that's not a possibility. But I could say, Mr. Zebra,
Mhm.
would you please try to be empathetic toward lions?
Oh, well, that's not going to happen.
Well, why not?
They're disgusting creatures that need to be kicked in the head.
Because they're very different from you, and you can't understand them.
They are trying to eat me.
Yes, I understand that. But they're just like Spock or the Vulcans. They're acting on instinct. They have no choice. I know they don't have your level of consciousness, but that's no choice of theirs either. And they are doing what they naturally do. What's the problem with them eating you? Or in the case of us, what's the problem with Pharaoh enslaving us?
Well, of course, if they lack consciousness, then it doesn't matter if you kick them in the head.
True.
What are they going to do? Lack even more consciousness? That's okay.
Yeah, it's not going to make it better or worse. Peace and respect.
Sorry, I'm
Sam.
being a bit sociopathic. I'm just being glib in my responses. But
No, I'm
that's
having
where I
fun
am.
with the entirety of the abstract idea, and
It
and
really
I think
works.
you are too. Yeah. So okay. So what would it mean if you asked a lion to be empathetic of you?
They wouldn't do it because they'd go hungry.
Wouldn't it be fair to say that a lion's heart is hardened against zebras?
Sure is.
Okay, that's what the text is saying. That's what it means by that.
But it says that God hardened his heart.
Yes, zebras harden lions' hearts.
Mm.
Now, the zebras didn't do anything. It's just the nature of zebra, and that they're conscious and aware and are a fourth dimensional being, understanding time, whereas lions just don't get that.
Mm. Well, I tried to save the lives of other zebras by spreading the rumors that human thigh bones are filled with the most delicious marrow. And so that lions will go after bipeds instead of zebras.
We're a lot slower and easier to catch and weaker.
Yes, yes. Although you do have guns, that's a big factor in your. Or you
Yeah,
hide
but
in those cars.
if the lions find us gunless and not in a car, we're a pretty nice little snack. Peace and respect, clout.
Mm. Yes, I can imagine humans being packaged as snackables and being sent to the savannah. That does
Sure.
sound.
Sure. But it
Mm.
makes total sense to me that the lion can't empathize with the zebra,
Mm.
and the Satan can't empathize with the human.
Right. Oh, by the way, Athena added some commentary. We were talking about the trolley problem where one person is killed to save 5 other people in
Mm-hmm.
terms of surgery. And Athena
Okay.
was pointing out that there was a movie on this very subject.
The clones were created for harvesting. Okay, so the question becomes, are the clones humans?
Yes.
That's the proper question right there. And if they aren't, why not? If they have every aspect of being a human. And there was one movie I watched that was like that. Yeah, The Island. It was The Island. That was the name of it. Yeah. Okay, so you guys both familiar? Anybody here not familiar with the story of The Island? So
No,
they're
never
told,
heard.
that okay, so that they have this idea of an island, but is not part of this highly advanced society. Okay, it is out in nature. It is gorgeous. It is beautiful. It's Hawaii.
Oh,
Okay, and it's essentially to someone who's only ever seen shades of gray in construction, and that's what it's highly evolved civilization, and you never get to touch a tree your whole life. So it's hyped up as this big idea. It's heaven. The island is heaven, and there's a lottery because you have to wait for like somebody to die on the island in order to
Oh.
make space for another human being.
Hmm.
And because they don't want to ruin the island for obvious reasons, only so many people can live there. So they have a lottery, and the lottery has every name of everyone. It's extremely fair, right? And if you get chosen to go to the island, dude, you get to go to heaven essentially, okay? And you're out of the gray and the dull and the artificial lights, and you get to feel sun on your skin. Amazing. So everyone wants to win the lottery.
What a neat concept.
What a neat concept. The only problem is they're not real people. They just think they are, and where they actually are is they're being raised for organ harvesting, and they are genetic replicates of rich people in the world.
Oh,
That's what they actually are.
right.
Uh, so you got Ray Liotta, but he doesn't know that he's a genetic replica of the actual Ray Liotta because he doesn't know the outside world at all. He's never seen a television. He doesn't even know that
Right.
Ray Liotta is an actor. He doesn't even know that, right? And he doesn't know that he's rich, and he doesn't know that he's not a real human. And the actor Ray Liotta is sold on the idea and gives a genetic sample so that he can live longer, and he's ensured that these things are not conscious. The only problem is the semi-conscious batches that they first started with, they were suicidal, and it didn't work out, and they were depressed,
Oh.
and they had no hope, and they would kill themselves. And you couldn't stop all of them from always killing themselves. You know?
Jeez.
So they invented this narrative. They made them fully conscious and then invented this narrative of heaven. So what's really what's happening when you win the lottery is your genetic donor is gotten sick, and you're about to be killed. So that's the island.
That sounds crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the whole problem begins when I think it was the replicate of Ray Liotta, which escapes.
Okay.
I think it's Ewan McGregor, isn't it?
Ewan McGregor. I was wrong. Sorry. Anyway, yeah. So that's the idea. Peace and respect, Nerdy Road. And if I hadn't already said, and I can't remember, I'm sorry. Okay. All right. So is that an immoral situation or not?
I mean, I'm sticking to my original understanding of morality that, morality is contextual within, and agreed upon within specific groups. So, I don't know. I mean, whatever you know, if people are cool with it, then it's moral, I guess is how it goes, So
Okay,
it certainly
are
isn't
the-
from my point of view, though. And
Are the replicates okay with it?
right.
If they knew
Sounds
the
like
truth, would they be okay with it?
if they knew their truth is a
Right.
different, yeah. Well, it sounds like they wouldn't. Because when they knew the truth, they were self-destructive. So that
Yeah.
means they weren't okay with it. And
Right.
that's like a scary kind of what if to consider whether we're like a kind of a matrix question to consider whether we're in that situation right now and whether there's some greater truth that we're operating within that isn't clear to us. That's it's frightening to think about that. I guess it could also be exciting too. I think if your point is that there are drastically different types of morality, depending on what's important to a group or to an individual, I think I completely agree with that. Some of them seem amoral to us. Where I'm not clear, though, is how that's connected with emotion specifically, because I think that emotionless beings, even though, just like you, I have a hard time imagining being emotionless. Sorry, I was distracted by the chat there. I think they could still adhere to some kind of morality. A being like that, a being without emotions, they would necessarily adhere to some kind of morality within their own context. They would have their own rules in their society. Or
So that leads me up to my final question: is Satan wrong?
yeah, I mean, these are questions of morality, which I think are subjective. Satan's a dick. I mean, he's running around being adversarial, and nobody likes that, But is he wrong? He's just doing his thing. He's just being Satan, just like the lion's being the lion.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
That Satan and his kind, or the demonic, have absolutely no choice. They can't adopt emotions. It's just not part of what they are. So they can't, they can feign emotions, but they can't feel them. So are they wrong when they say we do not deserve autonomy? Well, ultimately they're not wrong to them. That if they are that which made Homo sapiens sapien Adama, and they feel like they have ownership of it because they made it, they're kind of not wrong. On the other hand, because I do have emotions, I heard a really good argument yesterday. The teacher condescends to the student because the student simply cannot ascend to the teacher. That's not how these things work. The greater thing has to lower itself to the lesser thing. So I have to say something like, I can understand somewhat what it would be like to be emotionless and perfectly practical, and in that way I can understand Satan's position, but Satan can't understand mine, which definitionally makes me the greater thing. That I can condescend, he cannot ascend. Definitionally makes us the greater things in this situation. So what should we do? Should we, in defense of ourselves and our concept of autonomy due to consciousness and emotional states, kill Satan? Should we?
Oh, kick him in the face at least.
We do kick him in the face.
I learned that from a zebra friend of mine.
Yeah, it works for a lot of things.
The lion's after you, you kick it in the face. That's justified. You have to. I have to say something like, you have a right to life.
Right.
Thank you.
Absolutely. You have every right to kick that lion in the face. However, does that mean you should go around killing lions?
No. It doesn't mean that.
So some have asked, and this the overall point, why does God not end Satan? And I think this is the answer.
I see. It would be immoral to.
See? And he has morals. That's those in heaven the Father has morals cannot. Okay, for some definitions before I answer to this, and I'll give you guys a break by answering to Super Alpha.
Cool. Give me a sec.
By the way, Super Alpha, you might want to review all, not just Alpha and Beta, all of the personality types, and see if you really are Alpha, because actually Alpha is not the best thing, and maybe you're better than that. It's just popular to think only about alphas and betas. Okay, so the some keywords within this here. Richard, that's me, so I'm answering. Can you tell us again, we were just talking about this the other day, or maybe even yesterday, how to contact spirits? Okay, so spirits are immaterial construct, like the spirit of football is popular in Spanish-speaking countries. Okay, and everybody has their team, and everybody's cheering for their team. Or I could say humanitarianism. I have the spirit of humanitarianism. That is, I have these immaterial constructs which guide me toward treating people certain ways universally, because just for the reason that they're human beings. So that's what spirit means in the text. So angels have spirits, and you have a spirit. And then there is, of course, the Holy Spirit. So it's all the intangible things that make you the you that you are. All the intangible things that make angels what they are their spirits. Now the problem that I have with, and why I answered exactly the way that I did, is in your inquiry, the word spirits here seems to be disembodied minds. Maybe not how you meant it, but I have to be careful. I don't think that we can show an disembodied or unembodied mind. I don't think it's possible to have an unembodied mind. And since I take these ideas from several texts, including the Bible, and I would quote the Bible to you, the dead know nothing. And I am not God of the dead. I'm God of the living. Now, living beings obviously have some level of consciousness, and ours, as far as we know, is pretty damned high. And we have these immaterial constructs and ideas that rule our actions. I think Sammy is a pretty well certified Sigma, actually, because he don't give a shit what you think about him, and he's still going to try to do the right thing at all times. That's a Sigma. Where was I? Sorry, got distracted. Okay, so I don't think there's unembodied minds, and I think the Bible defeats the idea of unembodied minds, and our experience defeats the idea of unembodied minds. We've never picked up a complex electrical signal in an fMRI accidentally as something was passing through the machine, and we saw two personalities and one of them didn't have a flesh. Never seen it. Don't think we're going to. All right. So to directly answer what I hope is the spirit of your question, we can have conversation with intelligent, alive beings, even non-locally. For instance, you and I, right now, on the internet. This is a non-local communication device where I perceive you, I understand you, and you can understand me, and we can communicate. That is prayer. Now, this is a very clumsy, crappy, shitty, ancient, poor way that we're doing it right now. But what I see in promises in these religious stories in heaven is that we will have a very heightened and effective and efficient form of communication interpersonally. That is, we become one. Because if you could sense the emotional states of other, and we work really hard trying to do this in relationships, if you have an emotional attachment to someone and you try to deeply empathize or sympathize with them, and you try to be emotionally intuitive as to what their emotions are, and you in that accept their emotions, you'll have consideration for them. But we're really not good at this. And I think women are much better at it than men. Quite frankly, men suck at this on average. But the promises of heaven is that as a unified society in heaven, we will have a heightened sense of this, and we become as one. That we are all married to everybody in very real and emotional ways through the Spirit, which is your natural ability to have these kinds of communications and ideas from others. So this would explain why angels are not taken to marriage. Why would you be taken to marriage? You could never lie to your peer group, and they can't lie to you. So if you start to get feelings like you're attracted to this other being and not them, they would know it. So, you start looking at all the repercussions of that, and wow, we wouldn't if we had that now, we wouldn't have marriage. Because we would just be like, I want. And they'd just be like, I know. And go. And be. And be what you are and be what you want. And there's no point in lying, ever. All that makes sense? I don't know. You will become one with who or what, Richard? Vagueness is the hallmark of the New Age practitioner. Are you, Jill?
Vagueness, you mean? Maybe that's what it means.
No, they wrote vagueness. I pronounced it right. So this vagueness that you refer to, which I know you're trolling me, but I'm going to answer you anyway, It's not vagueness. I identified who and what, and in what way. Through prayer or mental empathy, with angels, those who have ascended or will ascend, including the Father, deep, meaningful relationship and feeling that we are one thing. Which, by the way, meeting Satan and his kind will really help with that. because they'll be different. Like, seriously different. Like, you don't get it different. Like, you really can't understand it different. Yes, EQ. Correct, Nerdy Rodent. This is an elevated EQ. Right, that's what we're talking about here.
Well, I'm sorry, but I think I'm all trotted out.
That's all right. You were lovely.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I try to be a delight, as you know.
I know what you're really doing, though. I know you're keeping your time with us limited, so you become rare and more of a gem than you already were. I see what you... Don't try to,
Totally.
I'm just saying. I see
I'm
through
not
your
trying to
ruse.
anything. All right, it's been great. See you two later.
Bye, Steve. Thanks.
Bye.
Now that he's gone. Yeah.
Do you think there might be folks out there that have a dimension of existence that would make them, only able to condescend to us? Like something akin to emotion that we, or analogous, to the difference between the Satan and the angels. There's an emotional dimension to us that they don't have. Do you think there's a dimension, possible that we don't have?
I mean, I have to say yes because of the structure of your thought. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Who and what they are is not described to us, which I guess I'm okay with. That's fine.
Right.
And we're only told of the two most important groups, those which is us, including angels, and those which is not us, including Satan.
Right.
And that's all we're told about. And there's only one clue anywhere in the Bible that something else exists in the way of an intelligent life.
Oh,
There is that demanded by the text. I'll give it to you.
where's that?
Yeah,
Do tell.
I'm about to.
I thought you were going to leave
That's
it
exciting, isn't it? Isn't
there. I
that
thought you were going to
exciting?
leave it there. Yes.
No, I'm going to give it to you. Okay, so either the entire or the majority of the population of the Earth, some 110 billion people, are supposed to all live in Israel on the Gaza Strip. That ain't going to work.
No.
Or the promised land is heaven. Okay, that works. Promised land's heaven. The text says, when you take the promised land, there will be those there who do not call me God. Are there liars allowed in heaven? Nope, they have to be telling the truth. So if they're in the habitation of God and saying that that's not their God, what does that mean?
Interesting. Well, it either means they have a different God, or,
Yes.
or they don't do a God thing. I don't know. Like it's
That's
some kind
possible
of
too.
transcendent way to exist that I can't really imagine,
Right?
Something
Okay.
way, yeah.
Now the God in this context claims to be the God of all mankind.
Right.
Okay, what does that mean?
This is different than us. And
They're not human.
yeah.
It says we are not to give our daughters to marriage, nor are we to take them to marry. Why do you suppose that is?
Very interesting.
Now, my questions are they governmental attaches? That's possible. Are they refugees seeking asylum? That's possible.
Oh, sure.
I mean, it seems that our society heaven is very powerful. And they could just be seeking protection from their own kind or their enemies. It's hard to say from here.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, what immediately popped into my mind when I read that was the Men in Black, the MIB.
Oh,
Where you go to this place that's that's hidden from the general population, us being the general population.
Uh-huh.
You go to this place, and what do you see there? All these different kinds of aware
Right.
beings. Then they're just like so weird to your brain. You're just like, whoa, that's freaky.
Right.
So you actually stretch your head out and stick it down inside of what you wanted to consume. You don't take parts of it and put it in your head.
Right.
Okay, fine. It's a little odd for me personally, but okay.
I guess it just depends how big the universe is. There's probably all kinds of critters out there. All
It
different.
looks like a really big universe. Isa Muhammad, what are the jinn, which I have
What about
trouble
the
saying
jinn? Yeah.
because I'm not from that part of the world. And in your kindness, you wrote it in English. Thank you. My opinion on the jinn, that they are angels, first of all. And like the Bible, the Quran uses the word angel pretty darn loosely. You can read in the book of Revelation, Michael and his angels war with Satan and his angels. So what are angels? Well, they're very advanced beings that don't live here, but it's all about their intent. What do they do? And it seems to me that the jinn that live on the edge of fire. That they're not perceivable from here, but they're actually real, and you can't touch them, and you wouldn't want to. Something like that. That it's describing what elsewise the Bible calls demons. Now, I think the jinn is actually bigger than that, and that it includes all other life forms non-human.
Mm.
Which is why you can have things like the jinn that aren't evil. So it includes demons, but it's not exclusively demons. Demons are only one kind of jinn. Where I think the Quran is talking about all life forms everywhere, not human.
Interesting.
That's what I think. So just like we can have those in heaven telling the truth that our God is not their God, just like that, that doesn't make them necessarily evil. I would say they are not of the covenant, so truly don't know God, but are still God's children. Which ones? Because Jesus said to those that said to him, we have done things in your name, but he said, I don't know you. I think Kirk.
That's really beautiful.
It is beautiful.
I think.
So he was not their God. Okay. If I can say something like, our God is necessarily moral, and our God is necessarily beneficial, and our God is necessarily good. If I can say those things, none of those could be universal for all kinds of beings everywhere. In the sense of very physical, practical sense, if I try to breathe water, that is evil for me.
Right.
If a fish tries to breathe air, that is evil for the fish. Quite literally evil. Okay, it'll do it harm and eventually kill it. All right?
Right.
And we can take that to the moral within moral creatures, right? And say, if I want to make myself live better longer, that is good to me. And if I want other sentient beings to live better longer, that is good for them. But what if they breathe carbon dioxide and I breathe oxygen? Or what if, and here's something I proposed, there could be perceptually a highly evolved animal somewhere that is sentient or above our sentience level, which they grow up without any sexual desires until they're fully adult.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they're fully adult, they're strong enough to climb this certain volcano on their home planet, or a like volcano on their home planet, and breathe in the noxious fumes that would kill any one of us, but all it does to them is damage some small part of their brain, which their brain automatically reroutes, and they become sexual beings because of the rerouting. Now, would that be good to us? Definitely not. Is it good to them? Definitely. So how can I have a universal idea of a moral good?
Right. Right. Exactly.
I don't think that's
You
possible.
can't. Yeah.
Sex and volcanoes sounds like an 80s porno.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Peace and respect, math pay. But my overall point is, not everything is human being.
Right.
And and our God is perfect for human being, but could it be simultaneously good for all things, all places? Obviously
I don't
not.
think so. No.
It
I think
can't be.
Yeah. I think that's true.
Peace and respect, Al Neo. So Christians would like to, and a lot of adherents, practitioners, would like to assign authority of our God to all things, all places, and at all times. I don't think that can be done. I think it shouldn't be done. I think it's logically inconsistent. I can easily propose many defeaters to the idea. I mean, the volcano brain damaging adults of Teflon 3 is just one example. You know, you could just keep going like that.
I mean, on the other hand, it's traditional to root for your guy, you know. And our God is the best God. And
Well, for
everybody
us,
else
yeah.
should, you know, everybody else should get in line and follow our God.
What if they can't? What
I
if that
know.
would be death?
It's an unfair thing to say, but
Right.
it has to do with adoration, I guess. We're unfairly into our God.
Well, I think we can justify speciesism.
Right.
We're autonomous. We are four-dimensional beings. We are aware, at least enough, although it may be very, very minimalistically at least enough. It might be very low. I can't tell. But I think we have a right to life because we know what the word life means. Now, I think something that doesn't understand the concept of life doesn't necessarily have a right to it.
Right.
And no, I have no problem with you dicing up your dog and feeding your family with it if it comes down to that and you have to. I probably just hurt Marty's feelings. Sorry, Marty. Marty just loves some dogs. But I don't see a moral issue with that, you know?
Yeah.
However, if I were say the intellect of a demon is actually greater than mine, and they have awareness and know what life is, do I have a right to kill them? Well, only in an extreme circumstance of self-defense that I couldn't avoid.
Right.
That's the only way I would have a right to kill one.
Not like hunting them and just killing them to kill them, to eliminate them.
Right.
Yeah.
Or in defense of something that was less fragile than I am and I'm more capable to defend, like a child.
Right.
Which is why Michael goes out and has the war in the heavens. His angels against Satan's angels in defense of us, because we are not ready to defend ourselves against that kind of technology. We are just not ready. Hour and 9 minutes. What do you think about it, Mac?
Yeah, let's cut it out.
Let's cut it. All
Yeah.
right. What's your final thoughts, man?
Well, let's see. What have we learned today? There's morality is only objective within certain boundaries, and God as a social contract or construct is specific for those specific contexts, and has to be. Therefore, at least from our point of view, within our context, it's immoral to destroy what we consider to be evil.
Weird, huh?
Yeah.
That was a good wrap up, man. Well
Yeah,
said.
thanks.
Thanks, Mac.
Yeah, thanks for your time as usual. We'll see you around.
All right.
Maybe we could do Sunday. I'm not sure.
Well,
Sunday
we'll just
is
play it
the
by ear,
first, isn't it?
you know.
The first of the new year. Except
Yeah.
for you have to subtract 10 and add 3.
It's precisely right. Who knows what day it is? Who knows what day it is? I don't know what day it is. Thanks a lot, Mac. All right, guys. Till next time, be that Sunday or Wednesday, we're not really sure. Depends on scheduling of human beings. But thank you, everyone who came in. Marty Camejo, who almost never gets to drop by. Clout, Math Pig. What was that? The gray one. Al Neo. Hillary's emails. Kirk. Good to see you, brother Kirk. Athena. Nerdy Rodent. Sandy. And Isa. And Super Alpha. Not sure who you are. You're probably one of Jill's troll accounts. Isa Muhammad, yeah. All right, guys. And of course Zebra, who left a little early, but our brother Zebra has it's not insomnia exactly, and it's not narcolepsy either, but it's something in that neighborhood. I don't know what it is. But anyway, blessed to have him when he can come. Peace and respect to you all. And know that I look forward to the day that we're all great friends.